Hi everyone, welcome to LA Legal. I'm Liana, and today I'm joined by Neama, of course, and we have a very special guest all the way from Florida. Please introduce yourself, tell our viewers what you do, and then we'll get started.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Barbuto. I am an attorney, licensed to practice law in California, Florida, and New Jersey. My practice is in Palm Beach County, Florida. I have a general practice, solo practice.
Very nice.
You know, Anthony's very impressive, took 3 bar exams, passed 3 bar exams, but also is the first lawyer on TikTok.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So
2018.
We figured out that I've been following him on TikTok because when I walked in, I was like, gosh, what a familiar face, but didn't think much of it. You missed the whole intro. And then he said, I'm from Florida. I was like, ding, there it is. Right, I think you're hysterical. So welcome to our show. So we'll be talking about probate, and I'm going to let you take the reins on this thing because, you know, that's your forte. But let's give our viewers a quick intro and we'll get started. So Lisa Marie Presley was an American singer-songwriter and perhaps mostly known for being the only child of singer and actor Elvis Presley. In 1993, Lisa Marie had appointed her mother, Priscilla, and business manager Barry Siegel as co-trustees of her trust. However, after her death in 2023, Priscilla claimed that she discovered an amendment to the trust dated March 11, 2016, that replaced her and Barry as trustees with Lisa Marie's daughter, Riley. Priscilla Presley asked the court to determine the validity of the amendment, noting that the signatures didn't match, trust rules weren't followed, the document misspelled her name, and the amendment was never delivered to her as required by the express terms of the trust. So a lot happening here. A lot of people took issue with this, right, because she is Elvis Presley's ex-wife, not widow. So a lot happening. What are your initial thoughts on all of this?
Well, I think for the viewers, it's important to know the type of document that Priscilla Presley did sign. You mentioned probate. California is one of the complex probate states, just as Florida is. When someone passes away, depending on how their assets are titled, the last thing they want is to have to hire a lawyer that typically will get a percentage of the assets, have to tie their assets in the probate court where their assets are a public record. And, you know, everyone wants to avoid that. A lot of states, it's not complex. A will is just perfectly fine. But if someone passes with a will only, oftentimes, of course, there are little other exceptions in how to avoid probate, but oftentimes the estate has to be probated. And you know, that's not fun for everyone. So the question is, how do we avoid probate? Well, one of the ways to avoid probate is by doing a revocable trust. And I always use the example, it's kind of like a company. A company can own assets, and you have a president of the company and a vice president of the company. When the president dies, the company is still alive. The vice president could just take over and administer or handle business. And along those lines, a trust is kind of like an entity where you have the trustee, kind of like the president, right? And you have a successor trustee, someone to take over when the trustee passes. So if you title your assets in the revocable trust and the grantor passes away, the estate doesn't have to go hire lawyers to go through the probate process. And that's what Priscilla did. She signed a revocable trust, okay? I think it was originally in the 90s, and then she amended it in 2010. And then, of course, the 2016 amendment. So that's the background of why people enter into revocable trusts.
yeah, obviously we're talking about this case because it's a celebrity case involving one of the most famous entertainers in American history, maybe on the history of the entire world. Obviously was a subject of a big movie. And, you know, like Anthony said, I mean, people that have money, people that are sophisticated, they put their assets in a trust so they don't have to deal with probate, to get out of probate. But we got right back into probate because it was, I mean, essentially, right? I mean, it's simple terms, but we're talking about a will contest here, right? They're challenging one of the amendments to the trust. Ex-wife, not widow, right? Widow. She wants in when apparently she's been kicked out based on that 2016 amendment.
Right. I don't think they went through probate. I think they may have gone to the probate courts.
Yeah.
But it was a trust litigation matter. And, you know, here in 2010, she appointed her mother, and a business manager as the co-trustees. At the time, her daughter was like barely an adult. She's like 22 years old. So there's nothing unusual about that. I've literally prepared thousands of revocable trusts and last wills, and it's not unusual to appoint another family member when you have children who are minors or who are just became an adult yesterday, you know, and she was very young. And then in 2016, she allegedly did an amendment, which was suspicious because it wasn't witnessed or notarized. I've never executed a last will and testament or a trust that's not witnessed or notarized. I don't know a law firm that does. I'm curious to know what law firm did that, but I don't know why it wasn't witnessed or notarized. But she allegedly signed it and made her daughter the successor trustee, and she made herself the trustee. And she took her mom, you know, and that act alone is also not, the act is not suspicious because most people do that. Most grantors of trust, they make themselves the trustees. And when their children are of age, they make their children the successor trustees. So nothing was unusual about that. It's just how the document was executed raised an eyebrow.
Technicality. Yeah, my understanding is that there was just one PDF version of it. Again, the express terms of the original trust were that, you know, any amendment would have to be delivered to Priscilla and the business manager. That didn't happen. And interestingly, their names were misspelled. So what does that make you think of? I mean, you think that was fraud or?
Well, I mean, Priscilla Presley's petition, there were some typographical errors I saw. I saw that there was the gender was wrong in one sentence. I think the daughter's Riley's name was spelled Daniel. So I mean, typographical errors happen with all lawyers. Okay, I don't think that was the main thing, and they're not going to win their case on that. It was more of, was it delivered to the trustee when it was supposed to be delivered to the trustee? But what I thought was unusual is at the time that Priscilla Presley made the 2016 amendment, Barry Siegel stopped acting as the co-trustee. He didn't do anything after that point. And is he going to say that he never knew? And then not only that, Priscilla Presley stopped acting totally as the trustee from 2016 to the time Lisa Marie passed away. So why did she stop? I mean, if she's the co-trustee, she has responsibilities. So is she saying that she never knew? Or is she saying that it should have been sent to me by certified mail? I mean, so that was referenced in the settlement agreement. And again, I didn't read all the dockets. I didn't see the exact settlement agreement that was approved by the court. So I'm not saying whatever I read online is the one that they went with. But the version that I saw indicated that Priscilla Presley stopped acting as the trustee in 2016.
Well, yeah, a lot of what we read and saw online was Priscilla's point of view, right? We don't see Riley coming out there and saying, hey, my grandma filed a suit against me basically challenging this amendment, you know? So I mean, we can kind of go through step by step, but the first was her claiming that it was a PDF, right? And she had to receive some sort of physical copy. Well, again, obviously we don't have the trust documents, but that seems more procedural than substantive. But then she went all the way to the other side and said, this isn't even her signature. Now, we didn't get to the point where we had handwriting experts and so forth come in, but now she's alleging just outright fraud. So what's Priscilla's endgame here, right? She either wants to be trustee again so she can control her grandchild. Let's not forget, she's already lost a grandchild to suicide, or it's something even more sinister. She wants a piece of the money, right?
I think that's what people out in the world think it is. It's a money grab.
Well, I thought of what the motivation could be, and I have three possible scenarios. One is that it's lawyer-driven. The lawyers found an opportunity to contest a trust based upon these issues. The lawyers persuaded her to do it. The lawyers know it's a high-profile case. That could be, and I hope it's not that, but that could be. I don't know this law firm, but I know that they made between $300,000 to $400,000 because that's what the settlement said, that Riley had to contribute in the settlement to recover some of those fees. Could that be the situation? One possibility. The other possibility is maybe Priscilla Presley was looking for some money. And some of the material that I read indicated that she received $1 million in the settlement and $100,000 per year for 10 years or the time she passes, whichever happens first, to act as a special advisor. That could be. Was it money driven on the part of Priscilla Presley? I don't know her financial situation, but that is a possibility. The other possibility is, look, she thinks that she could be a trustee better than Riley can. She thinks that she can preserve maybe the family money better than Riley can. Maybe she feels Riley is irresponsible. I don't know Riley's background, but maybe she felt that she was the best person for it, and she truly believed that Priscilla wanted her to be the trustee. So one of those three, I think, would be the best.
Well, just to also play devil's advocate for just a second, she ultimately brought the estate out of insolvency, right? When Elvis Presley passed away, Lisa Marie was underage, so she stepped in. I think the estate was worth somewhere around like $5 million or whatever, somewhere around that back in the 70s. And so she's the one who stepped in. She opened up Graceland for the public. They started making a ton of money. I think today it's worth over $100 million. So maybe she thinks that she's entitled because she's the one who's made so much money for the family. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, it's possible, but ultimately, right, she's an ex-wife, and she's not entitled to anything unless Elvis wanted to give it to her, and he wanted to give it to his daughter.
Right.
And the daughter wanted to give it to her daughter. Mm-hmm. So now you're in a situation where you have an ex kind of coming in, and look, and maybe I'm a cynic, and I've just seen it too much, but I think it's more likely an issue of money for Priscilla. Just my guess, just my speculation. I don't have the evidence. Because if the lawyers wanted to milk it, they probably wouldn't have settled so quickly, right? They would have milked it. Unless they just did it for a quick publicity play. Mm-hmm. They'd want to litigate it more, make some more money.
Make more money.
Of course.
It's worth a lot.
It was a relatively quick settlement in terms of sort of Hollywood lawsuits, at least.
Well, it was interesting because there was a statement that Priscilla made. She said something to the effect of, everyone thinks this was a lawsuit. It wasn't a lawsuit.
Yeah.
We were just trying to have the court interpret, interpret the law,
Yeah.
So, it could be that she believed that she is the best for the job. But then it brings me to my question that I made earlier is, why didn't she do anything since 2016?
Yeah.
That's what the settlement says. She's done nothing since 2016.
And then why'd she walk off with probably $2 million?
Yeah.
From her grandchild, right?
Why did she wait until after her passing when she didn't have any involvement since 2016? She knew, presumably, that Lisa Marie Presley was acting as the trustee solely as of 2016 to present.
And I think she still owns about 15% of the intellectual property. So you're already making money off Elvis. Now you're trying to make money off your grandchild. And I wouldn't be surprised if she settled because of all the blowback. I mean, she came out and, obviously, you two are the social media heroes. I'm sure you probably saw a lot of the comments about this. They were not favorable for Priscilla Presley.
And that's the thing, right? If this was a money grab, if you're going to ultimately walk away with like $1 million, $2 million, that's really, in the celebrity world, not that much money, right? And I think, as you mentioned, it was $100,000 a year, but I think she also gets like a small percentage a month for being something in the estate. I don't think it's enough to have this public fight with your granddaughter and then she just kind of walk away. So it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, like if she believed that she has a moral obligation to fight to be the trustee and spend all that kind of money on her lawyers, why then just agree to step down as a trustee for an exchange of $1 million?
Yeah.
So that was she was motivated by the $1 million then, and then she had some other language in there about where she's going to be buried and things like that.
Yeah.
Now it gave me like Jamie Spears vibes, someone that is really sort of profiting off someone else for not really doing a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, also what I thought was funny in a lot of the comments, she's remarried, my understanding is, and so she has a different last name, but she still goes by Priscilla Presley. I don't know. A lot of people were referring to her by a different last name now,
her
too.
legal name.
So, or whatever her legal name is. So I don't know. I agree with you. It definitely gave me a little bit of Jamie vibes. I don't know that this was like a moral obligation or she tried to do this out of the goodness of her heart for her granddaughter.
I'm curious to know if there were any pre-suit measures taken, like a demand for mediation or some informal telephone calls between grandma and granddaughter or between the lawyers before they actually file a case. That would be telling, because if the lawyers just quickly just filed the case without doing anything of that, I don't know why they would not have.
Yeah, obviously, unless you're up against a clock. And we saw it recently with some of the sexual assault cases that were filed in New York, right? I mean, the window's closing, you got to file or you lose your chance, right? But generally speaking, in most states, you do have a period of time, right? If you want to sort of challenge whatever it is, a will, a trust, or anything. I mean, she filed pretty quickly. And she also settled pretty quickly, as far as things were concerned. And I wouldn't be surprised if, again, the PR blowback, and I mean, so much of what we do, right? I mean, let's hear with these types of cases is, I mean, obviously we're lawyers, we have our legal strategy, but you gotta have a PR strategy, and this was poorly thought out on her part, in my opinion.
Well, speaking of PR blowback and how quickly she filed, a lot of people were like, why are you not mourning the death of your daughter, the sudden untimely death, and you're out here filing a lawsuit against your granddaughter?
But it's not a lawsuit, right? She's saying claim wasn't a lawsuit.
She just needed clarification, right? She needed a judge to say this is what this means.
Yeah. We just have questions, right?
It's just a question. Yeah. But question for you, is it, in your experience, is it common to maybe send a demand, take any kind of measure before you go to a judge in these kinds of situations?
Yes, it is. Now, as you mentioned, often there are deadlines. For example, I'm working a case now where there is a deadline approaching, but everyone knows about that deadline approaching, and I've reached out to the other attorney to see if we could work it out. He knows about the deadline approaching, but I'm trying to resolve things before it gets to a messy level, and it's always sad to see families in conflict, but I'm at least happy that they did settle, quickly.
Well, yeah, one of the things Anthony was talking about, right? You have a trust, so you avoid probate court, right? Especially celebrities, the last thing they want to do is have a public filing, deal with the media. We might like it because we do it all the time, but the celebrities, I can tell you, they usually hate it. So now you have someone that now is brought after a really sad death. Your daughter has died, right? After your grandchild has died, and now you're filing a lawsuit against a family member. I bet you that's the last thing Lisa Marie or Riley wanted.
Which could be why Riley agreed to whatever the settlement terms are, right? Just to maybe be done with it. She's an actress too, right? Right? Yes, no? Maybe. I think she's an actress. She's a celebrity in her own right. So I would imagine that, after she lost her mom, she's like, this is the last thing I want to be dealing with. So maybe whatever those terms were seemed favorable enough to not deal with the media chaos.
I think it was smart of her.
Yeah, I mean...
It makes her look like the good guy, too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it makes her look like she was nice and generous and paid her grandma to go away. I mean, the question is now, the case didn't drag on long enough. Are we going to see an Elvis movie part 2,
I didn't even know there was a part 1. Am I going to be crucified for saying that?
Priscilla v. Riley?
I don't think it was that noteworthy in the celebrity world. But, okay, so what are your kind of like final thoughts on this, right? Because these are things that happen every single day to families like, to normal people like us. They happen to celebrities all the time, and sadly it's common.
I think it's important. I mean, families, I have many clients that say, never in a million years would my children fight over my estate. And they're so confident about it. And oftentimes they're correct. They work it out, okay? If you're a parent that thinks that it is even a slight possibility that there's going to be conflict, then you need to go to a lawyer that knows what they're doing, that executes the documents properly, that reads the trust instrument. If the trust instrument says you have to notify the trustee in order to modify, then you got to make sure you notify the trustee before you modify. So they really need to seek counsel properly to have their documents prepared.
I think Anthony's being too nice. I say my advice is contact a lawyer like him that knows what he's doing. He's going to make sure you got your witnesses, it's notarized, you don't have a signature page on its own page. All the things that you need to do. You comply with the formalities of the trust, because you don't want to deal with something like this, some sort of contest that's unnecessary.
Especially, like, who prepared Lisa Marie Presley's? If I was preparing Lisa Marie Presley's documents, I would have read the statute book 1,000 times, because I know this is probably going to be in the limelight later. So,
Right.
I mean, what lawyer didn't, dot
Right.
the I's, cross the T's for Lisa Marie Presley's
Yeah.
documents?
No, I agree.
Well-
But I think it's a good idea to just get these things done regardless, whether or not you think your family's going to be amicable or not, right? It's like you have everything squared away. It's all on paper. Your kids don't have to worry about it. Your spouse, whoever survives you, right? I think it's a good idea regardless to just have everything on paper and ready to go if and when.
Money is the biggest source of conflict in most familial relationships. So that and infidelity. So if you can avoid one of those, go ahead and do so.
Absolutely.
Well, Anthony, where can folks find you? Tell them your social media handles.
I am the lawyer on TikTok. My law firm is Barbuto Law Firm. I have a website, anthonybarbuto.com. I have the Barbuto Family Channel where I vlog with my wife and my small children on YouTube. So I have many different channels across the
You've got it all
platforms.
covered.
Yeah,
And then you're practicing in Florida, New Jersey, California?
correct.
All right. So anyone watching out there, get your trust in order. Contact Anthony. Don't contact us. And if you want to litigate it after the fact, maybe call us, but definitely not to prepare any of those documents.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
flying
having
all
me.
the way
Yep.
out here. I hope you had fun. Stay tuned for our TikToks, and we'll see you guys all next time.